Let me tell you something most men don't realize until it's too late. We've all been told that if a woman likes you, her feelings will stay steady, constant, and secure. Society paints this picture that women only want men who are consistent, attentive, and always there. And for years, most of us believed it. But here's the hard truth. Her reaction when you start to lose interest, when you stop putting her first, reveals more about her true feelings than anything she ever said while she was into you. That reaction is raw. It's not filtered. It's not the polite version of her emotions. It's instinct, pride, and sometimes even fear of losing control. And I want you to think about this for a second. How many times have you seen a woman who swore she loved consistency suddenly change her tune the moment you pulled back? One day she says she just wants your steady attention, and the next, the very moment she senses you slipping away, she's cold, she's distant, or she's testing you in ways you didn't expect. I've lived long enough, and I've heard enough stories from men just like you to know this is one of the most confusing moments in a relationship. You think, wait a second, I've been doing everything right. I've been showing up. I've been giving. I've been steady. Why does she flip when I finally breathe and step back? Here's why. When your interest fades, even just a little, the mask comes off. You see the survival instinct. You see the ego kick in. And the way she reacts in that moment tells you exactly where you really stood in her life. Sometimes she'll panic. Sometimes she'll go ice cold. And sometimes she'll suddenly want you more than ever. But none of it is random. It's psychology. Now listen, this isn't about playing games or manipulating women. I'm not here to hand you tricks. This is about awareness, about seeing the emotional patterns that women rarely admit, even to themselves. Because if you don't see it, you'll get caught. You'll end up chasing harder when you should have held back. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 9 most common reactions women have when they feel you're no longer putting them first. Once you recognize them, you'll know exactly how to read her behavior, and more importantly, you'll know whether it's worth reinvesting in her or walking away for good.
Now, let's talk about one of the most common reactions men see when a woman feels your interest slipping away. She suddenly starts emphasizing her independence. Maybe you've been close for weeks, sharing time, building what you thought was a real connection. Then, out of nowhere, she begins repeating, "I don't need anyone. I'm happy on my own. I've got my friends, my work, my plans." At first, you might even respect it. You think, well, that's good. She's independent. But here's the part most men miss. Often, this sudden, "I don't need you" attitude doesn't come from genuine independence. It comes from fear. What she's really doing is sending a signal. If you're pulling back, don't think you have power over me. I can live without you. It's a defense mechanism. She's trying to flip the script and make you wonder if you were just a guest in her life all along. I've seen this play out countless times. A buddy of mine was dating a woman who, in the beginning, loved the time and attention he gave her. But the moment he got busy with work and couldn't text back as quickly, she shifted gears. Suddenly, every conversation was about how happy she was being single, how many plans she had lined up without him. She wasn't actually pushing him away. She was trying to remind him that she had options, that she was valuable even without his attention. And here's the danger, fellas. If you panic and rush back in trying to prove your worth, you've just handed her all the control. You start chasing, she relaxes, and the cycle repeats. But if you stay calm, if you let her words be just that, words, you'll see the truth. Real independence doesn't need to be announced over and over. Real independence speaks quietly through consistent action. So, the next time a woman suddenly makes it her mission to tell you how much she doesn't need you, stop and ask yourself, Is this about genuine freedom, or is it about fear of losing influence over me? Recognizing that difference is what separates men who get trapped in emotional games from men who hold their ground and keep their self-respect intact.
Another reaction you'll often see when a woman feels you pulling back is that she suddenly becomes cold and distant. One day she's laughing at your jokes, texting you first, leaning in when you talk. The next day, it's like a switch has been flipped. Short replies, flat tone, no eye contact. She's there physically, but emotionally, she's gone. Now, here's what most men get wrong. They think they did something terribly wrong, so they rush to fix it. They chase harder, buy flowers, plan a date, or send those long, "I don't know what happened" texts. But often, her coldness isn't about you making some huge mistake. It's a defense mechanism. Think of it like this. She senses you're pulling away, so she builds a wall before you can hurt her. It's her way of saying, "You can't reject me because I've already rejected you." That coldness is her shield. And the real purpose behind it? Control. By acting detached, she's trying to flip the emotional balance. If she can make you feel uncertain, make you wonder what you did wrong, she regains power. I've watched this play out in real life. A man I knew was dating a woman who adored his attention, always laughing, always leaning on him. But the moment his workload spiked and he started replying slower, she froze. She stopped laughing at his jokes, kept her phone in her hand during dinner, barely looked up. He panicked and started overcompensating, calling more, apologizing, rearranging his life around her. And just like that, she had him hooked again. Not because she was warm, but because she knew her coldness had him scrambling. The mistake here is obvious. Chasing harder when she shuts down, that makes you look desperate, and worse, it proves to her that she still has control. The smarter move is to stay calm. Recognize that her sudden coldness doesn't always mean the relationship is doomed. It often means she's testing whether she still has influence over you. So ask yourself, am I reacting to her real feelings, or am I reacting to a wall she built out of pride and fear? If you can stay composed, you'll see the difference. And when you see it clearly, you'll know whether to lean back further or walk away with your self-respect intact.
The third reaction you'll often see is when a woman pretends she doesn't care. All of a sudden, her tone changes. She stops initiating conversations. She acts like she's too busy, too focused on her own world to give you much attention. It looks like she's broadcasting one simple message: you don't matter to me anymore. And let me tell you, this one can sting, because if you're like most men, your pride kicks in. You start asking yourself, did I imagine the connection? Was I wrong about how much she liked me? That confusion is exactly the point. See, this kind of indifference isn't always real. More often than not, it's a performance, a mask. She senses your interest fading, and instead of chasing, she flips the script. If she can convince you that she's already moved on, she knows you might scramble to prove your value, to show her she still matters. In other words, it's a way of pulling you back in without her ever having to chase. I've seen this happen countless times. A friend of mine was dating a woman who used to light up every time he called. Then, after he got a little less available, she suddenly became too busy. She'd answer his texts hours later, post pictures of herself having the time of her life, and act like he wasn't even on her radar. He nearly fell for it. He started texting more, pushing for her attention, trying to get back to the old dynamic. But the moment he stopped chasing, her mask cracked. The truth came out. She still cared. She just didn't want him to see it. Here's the lesson. Don't confuse an act of indifference with true indifference. Real emotional detachment doesn't appear overnight. If she was warm yesterday and couldn't care less today,
chances are she's putting on a show. So, how do you respond? You hold steady. You respect your own boundaries. You don't get pulled into the emotional ping-pong game of, does she care, does she not? Because the moment you break your cool and start chasing, you've given her exactly what she wanted, confirmation of her importance. The truth is, genuine connection is built on honesty, not on pretending. If her way of holding on to you is by faking indifference, that's not love, that's control. And a man who values himself never bargains with control.
Another reaction that catches a lot of men off guard is when she suddenly starts flirting with other men. And let me make this clear. It's not always because she's genuinely interested in those guys. Many times it's about you. It's about making sure you notice. See, when a woman feels your attention slipping, her instinct isn't always to chase you directly. Sometimes she'll redirect her energy just enough to provoke you. She wants to remind you, I still have options. You're not the only one who wants me. It's part ego, part emotional strategy. I remember one man telling me how his girlfriend suddenly started commenting more on other guys' posts, laughing a little too loud at another man's jokes in group settings. He asked himself, is she replacing me? Did I do something wrong? That mental chaos is exactly the reaction she was counting on. If she can get you jealous, if she can get you to react emotionally, then she knows she still has power over you. And that's the danger. Because in that moment, you stop being calm and grounded. You start competing. You chase harder. You try to win her back. And suddenly, the balance flips. Instead of her worrying about losing you, you're worrying about losing her. But here's what you need to understand. Often, this isn't a calculated master plan. Many women do this subconsciously. It's just how the psychology plays out when they feel less desired. That doesn't make it less powerful. It makes it even trickier. So, what do? You don't take the bait. You don't let jealousy drive you into proving yourself, because the moment you do, she's won the game. Instead, you step back and recognize it for what it is, not proof she's moving on, but a test to see if she can pull you back into orbit. Remember, a healthy relationship isn't built on making each other jealous just to keep attention alive. If she's using other men as props to hold your interest, that's not connection, it's control. And the man who values himself doesn't compete for validation. He knows his worth, with or without her games.
Another reaction you'll notice is when she starts testing your patience. It doesn't come with a big announcement. It sneaks in through small, frustrating behaviors. She takes longer to reply to your texts. She cancels plans at the last minute. She brings up topics she knows will push your buttons. At first, you might think she's just stressed or life got busy. But if these things start happening right after you've pulled back, chances are it's not random. What she's really doing is watching your reaction. She wants to know, will he still stick around if I make things difficult? Will he fight for me if I push him away? It's her way of measuring your emotional investment without ever asking you directly. I'll give you an example. A man I once coached was seeing a woman who seemed perfect in the beginning, sweet, responsive, always available. Then, as soon as he stopped texting her good morning every single day, her behavior shifted. Suddenly, she'd reply hours later with one-word answers. She forgot their dinner plans, then posted pictures with her friends that same night. He lost his cool. He confronted her, sent long emotional messages, even apologized for not being as attentive. And just like that, she had her answer. He still cared more than he admitted. His overreaction gave her back all the control.
That's the trap. These little tests aren't always about love. They're about power. If you blow up, beg for her attention, or try to argue her into changing, you've just confirmed that you're still hooked. The smarter move, stay calm. Recognize it for what it is, a test. Don't get dragged into petty arguments. Don't let last-minute cancellations throw you off balance. Keep your composure, because your reaction is exactly what she's studying. And here's the truth. If her main way of keeping your attention is by frustrating you on purpose, that's not a relationship. That's control. Love isn't built on pushing buttons to see how much the other person can take. Love is built on respect. So the next time she tests your patience, ask yourself, is this a sign of genuine connection or just another game to see if she still has you wrapped around her finger? How you answer that question will decide whether you keep your power or hand it away.
Another reaction you might see, and this one can feel confusing, is when she suddenly becomes more attentive again. Out of nowhere, she's texting more. She's laughing louder at your jokes. She's complimenting you more. Maybe even showing up in places just to be near you. It almost feels like she's back to the woman you knew in the beginning. And I'll be honest with you, fellas, this is where a lot of men get caught off guard because it feels good. It feels like she's finally realizing how great you are, like she's had a change of heart. But here's the truth most guys don't want to admit. Often, it's not love pulling her back, it's fear. See, when you were giving her all your attention, she could relax knowing she had it. But the moment that energy disappears, it creates uncertainty. And uncertainty is uncomfortable. That's when she starts chasing, not because she suddenly values you more, but because she values the validation she was getting. She's not thinking, I miss his soul. She's thinking, I don't want to lose the attention I was used to. I've seen this play out too many times. A man starts pulling back, maybe because of work, maybe because he's just tired of carrying the effort. A few days later, his phone lights up with a, "Hey stranger," text. She's liking his social media posts again, laughing a little too loud at his jokes when they're together, and he thinks, yes, she's back. But once he dives back in, once she feels secure again, the old distance creeps right back. The mistake here is believing that her sudden interest equals long-term change. In reality, it may just be a short-term reaction to the fear of losing attention. Once that fear passes, she can slip back into the same patterns. So here's the warning. Enjoy the positive energy, but don't let it blind you. Ask yourself, where was this effort before she felt you pulling away? Is this genuine? Or is it just ego and fear talking? Because lasting interest isn't proven when someone feels like they're about to lose you. It's proven when they consistently show up, even when they're comfortable. Don't confuse a burst of attention with real affection. One is temporary, the other is rare and worth waiting for.
Another reaction you'll face, and this one can really mess with your head, is when she goes completely silent. No texts, no calls, no explanation. It's like she disappears into thin air. And let's be honest, fellas, silence can be louder than any argument. At first, you might think something's wrong. Maybe she's busy. Maybe she needs space. But if that silence shows up right after you've pulled back, it's usually not about life getting hectic. It's a strategy. She's using silence to flip the power dynamic. It's her way of saying, if you're pulling away, I'll pull further, and let's see if you panic first. And I've seen this game many times. A man I knew stopped texting a woman as often. He was trying to find balance, not smother her. Within a week, she went completely cold. No responses, no updates. He spent nights staring at his phone, wondering if he'd ruined everything. Eventually, he cracked. He called, he texted, he apologized for being distant, even though he hadn't really done anything wrong. And just like that, she had the upper hand again. That's the danger of the silent treatment. It's not just about absence, it's about making you anxious enough to move first. The more worried you get, the more control she regains. But here's the truth you need to hear. Silence is only powerful if you let it control you. When a woman cuts off communication to test you, your job is not to chase her into talking. Your job is to hold steady. Let the silence reveal what it really means. Is she genuinely done? Or is she just trying to pull you back in without having to admit it? Because real connection doesn't vanish overnight. If her warmth disappears the moment your attention drops, chances are she's not gone, she's performing. And your reaction is the real test. So when you face the silent treatment, don't rush to break it. Don't drown her silence with desperate words. Stand your ground. If she truly cares, she'll come forward in time. If she doesn't, then her silence just gave you the answer you needed. Remember, a man's strength isn't measured by how quickly he fills the silence. It's measured by how calmly he can sit in it without losing himself.
Now here's a reaction that can feel like a roller coaster. Because just when you think she's slipping away, she suddenly becomes sweeter than ever. Out of nowhere, she's warm again. She's more affectionate. She's reminding you of the good times. She's promising change. It feels like the woman you first met is back. And let me be honest with you, that's tempting. Because as men, we hold on to those early moments, the laughter, the closeness, the spark. So when she shows up with that same sweetness, you want to believe it's real. You want to believe she's had a genuine change of heart. But often, it's not about love returning. It's about security. Here's what's happening. When she senses your attention slipping, that fear of losing what she once had kicks in. The easiest way to get it back is to bring out the best version of herself. She's not necessarily fixing the deeper issues. She's simply pressing pause on the distance by giving you a taste of what you miss. It's like someone dangling candy in front of you to keep you from walking out the door. I knew a man who experienced this exact cycle. Every time he grew distant, his girlfriend would suddenly be more affectionate, sending sweet texts, cooking his favorite meal, talking about how they used to laugh together. He would melt, of course, and lean back in. But within weeks, the same coldness would return, and the cycle repeated. Sweetness, withdrawal, sweetness, withdrawal. It wasn't growth, it was control. And here's the trap. If you confuse temporary sweetness for permanent change, you'll keep running in circles. She doesn't have to fix anything if she can just press the sweet reset button whenever she feels you slipping. The wiser move: enjoy the positive energy, but don't let it blind you. Look for consistency. Ask yourself, where was this effort before she felt me pulling away? Is she truly rebuilding, or just trying to patch the hole in the boat long enough to keep me on board? Because real change isn't proven by how someone acts when they're afraid of losing you. It's proven by how they show up when they feel safe and secure. Don't mistake sugar for substance. A man who values himself learns to tell the difference.
The last reaction we need to talk about is one of the most powerful and the most dangerous. It's when she slips into the role of the victim. Suddenly, the story changes. She's not distant, she's not cold. Now, she's the one who's been wronged. That cuts deep, because the last thing you want is to be painted as the bad guy. So what do? You explain yourself. You apologize. You try to make it right. Without realizing it, you've just stepped right into her frame. And here's the truth, fellas. Not every emotional display is pure. Sometimes it's strategy. If she can make you feel guilty, she doesn't have to change her own behavior. She doesn't have to step up. She can shift the responsibility back onto you, and you'll work twice as hard to win back approval you never should have lost. I've seen this play out more times than I can count. A friend of mine dated a woman who constantly flipped this switch. Every time he pulled back to focus on his own life, she accused him of abandoning her. She'd cry, claim he was cold, say she just wanted the old him back. And every single time, he caved. He'd cancel his plans, spend more money, give more energy, just to stop feeling like the villain. The relationship never improved, but he stayed trapped in a cycle of guilt and overcompensation. Here's the warning. Compassion is good. Empathy is important. But don't confuse compassion with control. If her hurt only shows up when you're less available and disappears the moment you start pouring energy back in, that's not pain. That's a tactic. So how do you handle it? Stay calm. Acknowledge her feelings. But look at the pattern. Has she been distant, dismissive, or uninterested before this? If the sudden victim act doesn't match her overall behavior, don't let it dictate your choices. Because here's the bottom line. Real love doesn't need you to play the villain so she can play the victim. A healthy connection is two people taking responsibility, not one person carrying all the guilt. If you remember that, you'll never let yourself be emotionally chained just because you're afraid of being called heartless.
So here's the truth I want you to walk away with today. These reactions we've talked about, coldness, silence, sudden sweetness, even playing the victim, they don't always mean love. In fact, many times they have very little to do with love at all. What they really reveal is fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing the attention and validation your presence provides. See, a lot of men make the mistake of thinking if she reacts this strongly, it must mean she cares. But strong reactions don't always equal strong love. Sometimes it just means she's terrified of losing the leverage your attention gave her. And if you can't tell the difference, you'll spend your life trapped in emotional games, chasing approval instead of building respect. But here's the good news. Once you recognize these patterns, everything changes. You stop taking every cold shoulder as rejection. You stop mistaking every burst of sweetness as real change. You stop letting guilt tricks into overcompensating. Instead, you start holding your ground. You stay calm. You keep your self-respect. And that's when you finally see things clearly. Because at the end of the day, a relationship should never be about constant tests or power struggles. It should be about two people showing up with honesty and respect. And if what you're getting instead is manipulation, silence, and guilt, then maybe the healthiest choice isn't to fight harder. Maybe it's to step back and ask yourself, is this really the kind of connection I want to invest in? Men, your value doesn't come from how much attention you can pour into someone. Your value comes from your presence, your boundaries, your ability to walk away from games that don't serve you. And the moment you learn to see these patterns for what they are, you free yourself from the emotional traps that keep so many men stuck. This right here is the first step to holding on to your power as a man in any relationship. And trust me, in the next video, we're going even deeper into female psychology, the hidden dynamics women hope you'll never figure out. So you don't want to miss it. So hit that subscribe button, join the conversation, and let's keep uncovering the truths that'll change the way you see relationships forever.